Alrighty, boys and girls, we are going for a ride. I just want to talk to you today about the transmission on this 2021 Honda DCT Rebel. Has one mode on it that is actually, or you can actually ride it and enjoy yourself, and it's called manual mode. And the reason that this is the only mode that you can ride with is because for some reason when the engineers put this together and they were setting the transmission shifting up, they were so concentrated on the gas mileage that they just completely didn't care about the actual ride at low speeds. It's designed to shift very, very quickly to get the best gas mileage, which is great, but it makes the ride so uncomfortable at slow speeds. When you try to put it in sport mode, what happens is when you let off the gas, it just immediately starts engine braking like hard, and that's not any fun. I don't engine brake that hard unless there's like a specific reason, like maybe coming around the corner that you're not used to and you don't know how fast to go. Then you can kind of engine brake it, and when you do that, then it gives you a little bit more control over your bike. But just everyday driving, it's kind of a pain. I'll put it into sports mode real quick here. Stop, kind of show you what I'm talking about here. So even at slow speeds in manual mode, it just doesn't know where to be, and this is in manual mode. So when you're in automatic, it's worse. Now the good thing about manual mode is that there's no need to downshift. You just go. You shift when you want. Still in third gear. I go to fourth. Let off the gas. Now, I'm not going to downshift manually. It's going to let the bike do what it wants to do. And see, it downshifted all by itself in manual mode. So to me, this is the only way to ride this bike, is in manual mode. Pick when you want to shift, and then as soon as you want to start slowing down or whatever it is you want to do, it'll automatically downshift. So to me, it's a win-win situation, and I honestly, that has to be the final design of what they wanted you to do. I guess they made the other automatic stuff more for people who just don't, I mean, completely don't know how to drive a motorcycle, like at all. Right? But the problem is, it shakes you up so much that it's not fun, right? And also, I think because it does what it does, it wears the bike out prematurely, suspension-wise, because it shakes so much. So I got a feeling that I'm going to have to put new shocks, front and back, on this thing, because it's so shaky now. It's a 2021. It only has 5,000 miles on it, but it's just shaky 5,000 miles, probably, unless the person was intelligent enough to drive it in manual mode, which I don't know. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it into sport mode. Okay, it's in sport mode now. Put it in drive. Okay, now this is what I'm talking about. This is why I don't like sport mode, because you can go and it holds out the gears a little bit longer for you, right? But then as soon as you let off that gas, you hear that engine brake. Now, who the heck wants that? That's crazy. It doesn't do that when you're in manual mode and it downshifts by itself. So why does it do it? And there's no adjustment to it. It's what you get. And this is easy. This is not even the. Wait till I put a little speed on this, and then you're gonna see just a little bit of speed. You're gonna see what I mean. There's first gear, second gear, third gear. I'm just gonna let off the gas. Let's see what happens when I let off the gas in third gear. Just like a freaking. Who can deal with that? That's not. People say all the time, well, that's the way I would shift it. I wouldn't shift it like that. I mean, it holds into the gear way too long, and then it engine brakes, and that's not. I mean, I don't know about. I mean, there's some people who swear and say that the sports mode is good or whatever, but, and I'm not debating that it's not. It's just not for me. Let me see if I can put it in. Okay, I can actually put it in manual mode while I'm driving. So I just put it back in manual mode. So now, I'm going to shift when I want. Second gear. Now I'm going to let off second. Okay, it's downshifting pretty easy though. I mean, it did seem like it downshifted a little bit right there, but in comparison, there's two. Now I'm going to do the third gear again. I'm going to let off on it when it gets at the end of third gear. Still not. I know it sounds like it's engine braking, but believe me, it's nowhere near as hard as engine brakes when it's in sports mode. And when it's in sports mode, it holds out those gears way too long, unless you want to just go fast, right? Which, when you're riding around neighborhoods, you don't always have the luxury of being able to ride fast. So you know, you ride with the flow, right? So to me, manual mode. See, I just now put it in the 5th gear. And if you were in any of those automatic modes, you would have been 5th gear or 6th gear at 30 miles an hour or less. So I can downshift back to 4th. Only 27 miles, so get up a little speed here. Get it in the 5th. I may not get in the 6th. You know, I kind of like it in 5th gear because it gives me a little bit of control. So it does have just enough engine brake, and when you give it a little bit of throttle, it's responsive. So it just feels like you're in control when you're in 5th gear. When you're in 6th gear, there's a little bit of slack. It puts too much slack in there, and then when there's slack, what this motorcycle does is with that slack is it buffs the clutch, and when it buffs the clutch, it vibrates the whole bike. And there's where that vibration comes from, is that being too slow to be in the gear that the bike put it in, because you're driving it like, so right now it's too, see, it was too slow to be in 5th gear, so it started buffing. Now there you go, I just put it back in the 5th gear. This is where you have to be when you're in 5th gear, not 20 miles an hour. So honestly, I think it'll mess up your whole drivetrain if you just leave it in standard mode, or worse, if you put it in sport mode. That's just my opinion. I haven't been riding that long, but a friend of mine kind of told me the same thing without me even talking to him about it. I just said, hey, you're riding my bike. Handed him the keys. He took off, and he came back about 10-15 minutes later, and he says, you got to drive that bike in manual mode. He says it shifts too fast, it's going to ruin the transmission the way it's set up if you leave it in the automatic mode. And I didn't even say anything to him, and I really hadn't been doing it. I had been trying to figure out how to keep it in, put it in the user preset, and then adjust those the power and the engine brake, and then it's like 4 different settings, and I was resetting them all. I was setting them, it's like a combination, and I was just hitting every different combination I could to get it to what I wanted to do. And when it's in manual mode, it's exactly what I wanted to do. Except I have to shift it myself, and then actually that's even better, because if you shift it yourself, you get to pick the points where it shifts, and the computer can only do so much of understanding the inertia, the revolutions, all the movement and everything, to try to predict when you need to shift. But it's programmed to shift a certain way from the factory, which it's literally half a world away. In Japan, they probably have totally different streets and speed limits, and I weigh 235 pounds, so, and I'm only 5'9", 5'10", so I got a little weight on me, which is it is what it is. But my shift points aren't going to be what 150 pound 6 foot tall person's going to be. There's a lot of people on YouTube right now that are 5'10", 5 foot, 6 foot, but they only weigh like 180 pounds. And so the way they ride this bike and the way I ride this bike are going to be different. And maybe that's why my when it is in a wrong gear, it tends to like be like in a buff clutch status because of my weight, maybe. I don't know. So now we're going to go down this hill. So now I'm going to put it in 6th gear. And I still think we're going too slow for 6th gear because I'm going 40 miles an hour. Now it's acting like it's not buffing the clutch. It's smoother now in 6th gear. So to be in 6th gear, I think you got to be at least going 40 miles an hour. Anything less than that, it's just gonna sit there and buff the clutch. And then when you're in a downshift situation like right here, if you need a little more power, then downshift to 5th gear, get up to speed, and then when you come down, you're gonna have momentum. You just put it in 6th gear. And it's a little windy today. Another thing is this: I put this Poog windshield on here, and since I did that, before I put it on here, this bike could take some wind without any problem at all. But since I put the windshield on here, it moves the bike around pretty good, and I got to kind of counter steer into the wind so that it doesn't blow me completely over. So I'm going to return this screen, and the brand Poog is good. I don't know, Poog, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but the brand is awesome. This is my 3rd or 4th one that I bought for the different bikes that I've had. No problem. The quality is awesome. It's just I think this bike is built to have one of those bat wings. I really don't like the way those things look, but when you're trying to go down the highway and it's windy, it's really uncomfortable to try to, because I went down to Galveston this last weekend, and to get over into Galveston, you have to go across the causeway, which is an overpass, and it's really windy up there when it's windy. And so it was so windy, I didn't want to go across the overpass, so I didn't. Ended up going to the Texas City Dike instead, which is on the same side of the earth as I was, without having to cross the bridge. And so I think I'm gonna Poog makes a wing. Poog makes a wing, a bat wing, and it looks pretty aerodynamic, and I'm hoping that that's the magic bullet to be able to ride in the wind, because otherwise I think I'm just better off without a windshield than to have a windshield than to have me being blown all over the place. At least if it hits my body, I can kind of squat down, like in a racing position, and this bike is built for that. I mean, the pegs are straight down, they're not forward. You can't really, I know it's kind of labeled as a cruiser, but if you try to get in a cruising position, it's not really designed for that. So you're better off, you're treating it like a sports bike than you are a cruiser. So anyway, just gonna go here and check out what we got going on here. I'm gonna check the volume on the camera because this is the first time using this DJI microphone. One thing about DJI is you turn it on and it works. There's no I hate to talk bad about other products, but with the GoPro, I've had like 4 of them, and there's a police officer behind me, so I'm just gonna kind of see what is going on here. But let me check my camera real quick. See what kind of audio we got here. So this is my Honda DCT. This is the windscreen that I was talking about. I mean, it does have a really cool shape. It's a little aerodynamic, and then with this, it might be as aerodynamic as it gets. But I am going to try the bat wing. We'll see how that goes. I also think I have an issue with my front fork suspension. If anybody knows something that I can do to make that better, I think I'm going to adjust these down a little bit to see if that helps, because the front forks, I think that they just this thing bounces around too much. So there may be a way to adjust this to where one screw does one thing and then the other screw does the other thing, and that's the way you're supposed to adjust it, maybe. But honestly, I've used the wrench, and I've come down on these, and this has made the back end is good. They make some really nice looking shocks. Burley, I think, makes some really good ones. So one day I'll replace those, but I don't think that's my problem. For some reason, I think it's all here in these front forks. I see Burley makes a spring kit for these, so maybe I might put that in there one day. Okay, I'm gonna keep riding. I want to continue on with the transmission. I want to highlight some more things with the transmission. All right, glove up. Take it for a little spin. There's nobody here today. Usually there's a bunch of people here. There's nobody on the road either. It's kind of weird. Spring break is over, so I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's too windy. It is a little windy, but when do people care about wind other than fishermen and motorcyclists? All right, here we go. All right. So now I'm going to put it in standard mode, and I'm going to ride up and down the park a little bit, because it's like 20 miles an hour, and you'll get to see how clanky it is at slow speeds. Alright, let's do this. See how it's jerking around? mean, that's pretty much first gear, so it's going to do stuff, stuff like that. So it's not that big a deal. But I'll explain to you what I'm talking about when it does it. About this buffing the clutch thing. Excuse me. Oh, it's still in. Okay, now it's in standard mode. Okay, there's second gear at 15. Third gear at 19. Okay, now if I let off the gas a little bit, you're really gonna feel that clutch buffing. I slow down a little bit. See the whole. You can hear it in my voice how much this thing shakes. Better speed up. I got a dang old bicycle fixing to pass me up. I don't know what the speed limit is through here though. There's a nice Sugarland officer here, and I don't want to upset him today. It's a nice night or evening. Sugarland Park here. Don't know the name of this one in particular. I'm sure there's a sign around here somewhere. There are a few people out here walking around. There's alligators around here, I know, because the Brazos River is just on the other side, to the left side of over here on the woods. There never used to be alligators in Houston. I moved here in 1979, and back in the 70s, the alligators were considered a endangered species, believe it or not. And so they put a ban on killing them. And so it was illegal to kill the alligators. It took a little while for the people to stop killing them, but they stopped killing them, and as a result, it's been let's just say 1980, and 40 years, 46 years of now they hunt them again now, but you have to have the tags or whatever, and they mostly do that like Louisiana. We don't have that many alligators here in Texas. I don't know if they issue tags in Texas, but I know in Louisiana for sure they do, because they have more alligators there. It's more swampish, better habitat for them there. But anyway, they're mostly around the south part of Houston, Sugarland, outskirts and stuff. There's some on the north side too, Lake Conroe, and I heard this guy tell me that alligators can smell water miles away, so if there's a pond or a lake, they'll find it. And the alligators, they got to find a place to nest up. Our alligators we have down here, they breed, and you can see the little alligators on top of the mama's backs and stuff. It's kind of cool. Oh, I smell skunk. And but when it's cold, they have to be in the deep. Oh, look at that. That's embarrassing. That's just embarrassing. But when it's cold, they have to be in the deepest water they can, where it's try to be warm, because they don't have a way of keeping themselves hot. And then when when it stops raining and we get a drought, then the lakes that they live in dry up, and they got to go to the rivers, and they usually stay pretty close so that when the water comes back, they'll come back. It's happened. I've seen it with my own eyeballs. Maybe I'll go out there one day and blog out there. I guess that's what you call this, blogging. Yeah, Sugarland. So just go all the way out, turn around. See, I've been driving in automatic mode. It hasn't been doing too bad, actually. Maybe now that it's on camera, it's like, well, you know what? I'm gonna shift and drive like the one's supposed to. Isn't that how it works out usually? All right, I'm gonna turn around. So what is this? Brazos River Park. Oh, okay, that's original. I better make this a hurry because somebody might come flying around that corner. Alright, it's 30. What you mean? There you go. Shift, baby, shift. You know, this bike, I had a 300, Rebel 300. And man, it might have been because I was a new driver, but it didn't handle very well. It maybe just because I wasn't leaning like I was supposed to and all that. That's probably what it was, right? But then I had a bike in between that Rebel and this one, and it was a let's get windy right here, CB500. And I love that CB500. It was cool. It was completely different than the Rebels. It was high off the ground. The center of gravity was pretty high up there, and the gas tank's real high in the air. And it actually, I had it full of gas one time, and I didn't realize how top heavy that thing was. And I was moving it, and I usually 9 times out of 10 I'm on my bike and I'm moving it with both feet. But this time I decided to move it with just holding the handlebars, and man, all of a sudden I just looked down and my bike was on the ground. And I've never dropped the bike, you know. That's not saying much because I haven't been riding one for a while, but it just really surprised me that happened. But then I realized that tank is like 4 gallons and it was full. And I was trying to balance that thing with just my wrists, and it just wasn't happening. So gravity won on that one. So anyway, when I got I went riding with a friend out in the country, and that CB500, it didn't really even have the windshield. I had a little bitty poosh windshield that I put on it, but man, I was being blown all over the place with that thing. And it was windy, but it wasn't that windy. But I just like, you know, my goal is to be able to go canyon carving, you know, go to the out west and you know, Route 66 and whatnot. That's my goal, because me and a friend, we could trailer our bikes out there and then ride around. But anyway, so my goal is to get something that it's not going to blow me all over the place. So I from the beginning, I've always wanted this. I told myself, I'm 55 years old, and I told myself if they ever made a motorcycle that was automatic, then I'd buy one. Because my friends are always like, hey, get a motorcycle. Nah. I couldn't trust myself driving a standard, you know. But when I took the class and they, you know, got the muscle memory down and everything, I actually liked it, and I really like the CB500 because it was like me and that machine were like one, right? It was very satisfying to shift the gears, being in, you know, engine braking, all that stuff. It was perfect for that. And that bike was perfect for under 50 miles an hour. It was perfect for just going, you know, neighborhoods and stuff like that. But on the highway and wind, it just wasn't where it was at. So then I bought this 1100 automatic DCT, and first time I rode it out at the dealer, it was really, really windy that day, and it didn't have any kind of a shield on it or anything. It was just naked, and I hit that wind, and it just cut right through it like it was butter, like no problem. And I was like, oh my god, this is it. This is the machine that's going to be able to get me through the canyon carving and all that good stuff. So I told myself, this is it, you know. And for the most part, I've been pretty happy with it. When I first got it, somebody had put a 3-point engine guard on it, which normally when you put an engine guard on a motorcycle, you can't really even tell it's there. It's just it's mostly for looks, and then, you know, if you happen to if your motorcycle happens to fall over, that's what it's there for. It's there to take the brunt, and then hopefully if your legs, it'll save your leg too, right? But the way that they put it on there is they had to disconnect the engine from the frame to put it on there, because it was a big one, right? It wasn't a little cheap. It wasn't a 2-point, what they call a 2-point. It was a 3-point, where it was 2 points in the front and then one in the back of the bike. It went underneath it and in the back somewhere bolted up. So they call it a 3-point crash bar, whatever, engine bar. So when I first got on it, it was shaking really bad, and it actually had something loose on it. And when I test drove it, and I took it back after my test drive, and I told them there's something rattling, and they found there was something on the on that bar was loose, so they tightened it up for me. And I thought, okay, well, yeah, it's not loose anymore. It must be good. Everything's good. Because it was making because of that clacking noise, my brain was so focused on that clacking noise. And then when it was gone, it was like, okay, I got a green light. It's good now. I'm buying it. I bought it. And then after I drove it a little bit, like, see, right now my bike is shaking real bad. I can't tell if it's the transmission or the suspension, but it feels like the front shocks, to be honest with you, or struts, whatever you want to call them. Anyway, so I realized that those bars were making my bike rattle. Even though it was rattling on by its own, I could tell that those bars were making it rattle worse. And so I went back to the dealership, the Honda of Houston, and told them what was happening. And I talked to the service advisor, and he looked at my bike. I mean, we were just sitting there looking at it from the inside, looking outside, and he's like, well, you know, you got that engine bar on there. I wonder if that is doing anything, you know, if that's contributing to it. And I was like, yeah, you know, because I had put engine bars on that Rebel 300, and it didn't make any difference, you know. It didn't vibrate or nothing when I was done, and I was, you know, pretty green. I put it on, it was no big deal. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, man, you know, because the people that had any vibration problems there's no YouTube videos that talk about vibration problems, and if there is, they'll talk about how it vibrates at high speeds, right? But this vibration that I'm talking about was at low speeds, and nobody was talking about. There were some Reddit posts where somebody, I had looked up, after you put an engine bar on, your bike rattles after that, and sure enough, there was somebody on there that said, yep, I put an engine, I don't remember the brand, but I put this engine guard on there, and then all of a sudden my DCT, my 1100 just started shaking real bad, and I had to take them off, and then the shake went away. And that made me think, because, and then there was some more that said that there was an engine, where the engine mount is, that there's a weld that's broken. There's because this is the first year that they came out, the 2021, and this is what I have is the 2021. And they said that there's been some engine mounts that the welds come loose. And it didn't look like it was actually on the frame. It looked like it was something that kind of bolted to the frame. I don't know. It looked weird. There's some pictures of it if you look on Reddit. But so I was thinking, man, it's got to be something like that, because there's no way it should be shaking that much. And then when he told me about the engine protection bar could be the reason, we went out there and we looked at it, and we saw how it was mounted to the frame. And I said, okay, well, let's just take that off, because I'm not leaving this dealership without doing something, because I can't. I was ready to just turn in the bike and eat the cost on all my tax, title, and license from my last bike and all that, and just start over again. It was going to cost me almost everything to do that, but it was shaking that bad that I didn't want the bike anymore. But then after I thought about it, I was like, let's just take it off. And at first they didn't want to do it. It's not that they didn't want to do it. It's just, it's a long story. Anyway, I talked to the person that sold me the bike. He said, yeah, we'll do it. I'll take care of it for you. So they took it back in the back. And what they had to do is they had to pretty much lift the engine off the frame, and then they could take that crash bar off. So the crash bar was completely intertwined with my frame, where it mounted, where the motor mounts mount and all that stuff, and it was an integral part of the body now. So I was like, okay, well, that's not that's probably it then, because if it's that much, then that's probably what it is. And before we took them off, I told the guy, the service guy, I said, look at this. And I kicked the bar, I kicked the engine bar, and I said, hold these grips. He held both grips. He reached across and he held both the hand grips, and I kicked that bar. You could feel the vibration of that bar in those hand grips. And I said, this thing is acting like an amplifier. Whatever, this thing, these 1100 DCTs, they're going to have a little bit of, vibration to them, anyway. But that's just how they're designed and made. But then with that engine bar, it just amplifies the vibrations. And make a long story short, which I already know, told a long story. They took it off. I got it back. I rode it, and it cut. It still vibrates, right? But it cut out that extra where you were like basically rattling your teeth, So if you're gonna put an engine bar on these things, I would just suggest getting those ones that kind of clamp on. One clamps on one side, and the other one clamps on the other side, and they don't really quite, get in between your frame and your engine. That's the one that, if I ever went back, put some back on here or whatever, or those other kind that they're just like knobby. There's like a knob on one side and a knob on the other. Something like that, I would do that. But as far as going with a 3-point, like full-bodied, you know, it's first of all, it's unnecessary. Honestly, the ones that go into the sides are going to do the exact same thing. I really don't see the advantage of the third member being screwed way in the back there. But I'm not an engineer, mechanical engineer, so there may be some advantage to it. But maybe if Honda did it, you know, maybe if they engineered it like that, they put more, maybe a couple more bushings in there, or something to isolate it. But there was no isolation. It was just straight, you know, metal on metal transfer. And so yeah, I would definitely stay away from that. But I still think I got a little bit too much vibration in this thing. But honestly, I really do think it's because of the front struts. Because I did test drive another 1100 DCT when I test drove this one, and it was a lot newer. It was like a 2024, and it felt like it was new. You know, like it didn't have any vibration and like suspension and all that. I didn't feel any of that. It just felt like a new motorcycle. And then this one felt like it was, you know, like it had like a lot more miles on them. And actually, both bikes had about the same amount of miles on them, but the other one was newer. And maybe the owner of this motorcycle, since it's 2021, it probably had a couple of owners, but maybe one of the owners was heavy like me and just, you know, took out the suspension. Or when you load these things up, sometimes people will put the tie straps above the shock, above the suspension, and then when they tighten it up, they pull them down, and then they go right. You know, they take it for a 2 or 3 hour ride in the back of a truck or a trailer, and that suspension doesn't have any way of letting loose. And maybe that's something that contributed to why the suspension is not that great on this motorcycle. But I'm going to take it one step at a time. I like the bike. It's only got 5,000 miles. I told myself I'm going to put 100,000 miles on this bike because that's how much I like the bike. And me buying bikes like I bought like 4 bikes within 3 months, and I was like, okay, I got to stop this. This is not healthy. And so this is the bike I'm going to ride for a while. And so I'm gonna invest in it. I'm gonna try to get the suspension to be a little smoother, right? That's my getting a little traffic here, and maybe poop or get off the pot. So let me turn around, go back the other way. Alright, I'm going to go back into manual mode here. There we go. Now I can shift it when I want to shift it. See that difference? See how much more power? And then when you let off, as long as you don't let off like all the way, it cruises. It cruises. Now I'm in 5th gear. I'm going 38 miles an hour, and I'm just cruising, right? I feel like everything's tight right now. I give it throttle right now, it'll just take off. Or if I let off, it'll start slowing down. I'm just like at the perfect speed or engagement, right, in 5th gear at this, and then I'm like, okay, I just want to relax. Boom, hit 6th gear, and now I can sit up, relax. I'm no longer like in the moment as far as trying to avoid getting hit by a car or something. So I'm just, there's nobody behind me, so I can kind of relax a little bit right now. But then if I, need to get on it again, just go back to 5th gear. Fourth, 5th, and 6th. Go back down to 5th. And now now you can choose what gear you're in. And also, I think the one thing the reason they probably do not advertise to manually shift it all the time and tell you that that's like the perfect setup is because it burns gas when you do it this way. I mean, I went down to Galveston and I figured, man, I could make it down there and back on one tank. It's only 50 miles away, and I'm supposed to be able to get like at least 140 miles, off of this one tank. It's a pretty big tank, 3 gallons or something like that. And nope, it didn't work out like that. I had to refill. Twice because I didn't feel comfortable because I got it down to 1 bar. That's what's good about these Hondas, man. They know how much gas are in them, and they have the bars. And this one doesn't tell you how many miles you have to go, but my car does. I mean, it may. I just haven't messed with it enough to figure that out. But anyway, it burned a lot of gas driving it manually, but you know what? Every time I stopped, I put it would only take the most I think it took was 2 gallons, right? It was $8 or something like that. Put premium in there. These are 10-to-1 pistons, so I would think that with 10-to-1 pistons, you would need to have a little bit higher octane level. But that's just me. You can probably put whatever you want to in this thing and it'll take it, but my dad always taught me to use the premium when it's needed. He put a premium in all of his vehicles, but I have an F-150 that's a 2008, and if you put anything but premium in there, it acts up bad. You think you got to take it to a mechanic or something. That's how bad it acts. But you put the good gas in there, and it drives like a champ. So I didn't want to have any problems with this thing. But yeah, you drive manual mode, and it's not like I'm going to the max RPM when I'm driving. I just take it a little bit further than what. I don't take it nowhere near what sport does, when sport mode. So I just drive it casually. I want it to last. I want 100,000 miles out of it. I don't want 10,000 miles out of it. And see, I just, when it's ready to ship, just when I ship, right? Only thing I can't stand about this motorcycle, and I'm hoping that somebody has a solution, and if you do, please put it down in the comments, to get an automatic blinker, to reset the blinker, because man, I always forget to have it on. I'll be riding with people and they're sitting there giving me the motion to turn it off, and I'm like, oh man. And after about the 10th time, it sucks, and it's just so hard to, it's just not intuitive, I don't know, it's weird. That's the one thing I can say about the Harley Davidson though. They have automatic shutoffs. I test drove one. Man, those things are awesome. But the thing with Harleys, you just got to be prepared to spend a little bit of money. And as far as the reliability goes, I think that probably the Harleys are probably more reliable than any other motorcycle. These Hondas are good, but I don't think that they're that good. You know, I think their heyday of like being super reliable and all that kind of stuff, I don't know. Maybe on some of their stuff they're a little more reliable than others, but I think they're all about the same reliability wise, but the quality, like the quality of the parts they use and things like that, I think you know, Harley Davidson is kind of hard to beat. I've just tried to, you know, just by putting these little windshields on, I've stripped bolts, and I've had to figure out how to take a strip bolt out more than once. And I would think that with the Harley Davidson, I probably wouldn't have that problem, but maybe, I don't know. My friends have one, and he works on it all the time with no issues, so I figured they're probably really good bikes. Well, I guess that's the end of the video. If I'm still recording, yeah, looks like I'm still recording. All right.